right, so now both Indiana and Idaho have decided to ban gender-affirming care because obviously healthcare is the government's business. If they need the healthcare, they need it. It's not for the government to make that decision on their own. They don't know these kids' situation. But anyway, let's get to the article. Republican governors in Indiana and Idaho have signed into law bills banning gender-affirming care for minors, making those states the latest to restrict transgender health care as Republican-led legislatures continue to curb LGBTQ+ rights this year. Indiana Governor Eric Holcomb signed legislation Wednesday that will prohibit transgender youth from accessing medication or surgeries that aid in transition and mandate those currently taking medication to stop by the end of the year. Now, I've gone over this before, but minors are not having what's known as gender reassignment surgery. They're not doing that. They might be getting puberty blockers, but last I've checked, none of this stuff is happening. So they're just pearl clutching. Not to mention, even if some of this was happening, I would trust a doctor who knows what they're doing and understands how this affects a person's body and how it would mentally affect this child than some doofus in the governor's mansion who has no clue what these kids go through. I mean, just putting it out there. Even if these surgeries were happening, if the doctor thinks that this child is ready for this type of permanent change, then I will leave it up to them. Now, because surgeries are permanent, I'm going to say that this isn't happening. I've said it before that they probably are on puberty blockers, but if there are any surgeries going on, it's probably for something other than being trans. I don't know. I don't think that it's early enough for people to get breast cancer when they're children, but stranger things have happened. So that's a good reason to have a mastectomy. There are all sorts of reasons, which I can't think of right now, that would lead to this care that doesn't necessarily have to be trans-related. And as for the puberty blockers, again, this is not just trans kids that get these treatments. So why do you hate kids? I mean, anyone who knows me knows I'm not the biggest fan of kids. I wouldn't torture them like this. I just do not see what the point of this is. And to stop it by the end of the year, I mean, yikes. Idaho Governor Brad Little had signed legislation Tuesday evening that criminalizes gender-affirming care for youth. More than a dozen other states are considering bills that would prohibit transgender youth from accessing hormone therapies, puberty blockers, and transition surgeries even after the approval of parents and the advice of doctors. Because, again, the government knows better than those pesky doctors who are actually experts in their field. We couldn't possibly, they couldn't possibly know more than a governor. And these are the same people who pound their chests, screaming parental rights. And here they are saying, yeah, we don't care what parents say, we're going to do what we want. Other proposals target transgender individuals' everyday life, including sports, workplaces, and schools. Permanent gender-changing surgeries with lifelong impacts and medically prescribed preparation for such a transition should occur as an adult, not as a minor, Holcomb said in a statement about the Indiana bill. Counterpoint, if children aren't forced to go through puberty, then there will be no need for these surgeries because those areas that they would have surgeries on wouldn't develop. Do these people think at all? Oh, wait, no, they don't. I answered my own question. The American Civil Liberties Union of Indiana filed a lawsuit rapidly after Holcomb signed the Indiana legislation, something the group had promised to do after Republican supermajorities advanced the ban this session. The American Civil Liberties Union of Idaho announced Wednesday it also planned to sue over the state's new law. The Indiana ACLU filed the lawsuit on behalf of 4 transgender youth and an Indiana doctor who provides transgender medical treatment. It argues the ban violates the U.S. Constitution's equal protection guarantees as well as federal laws regarding essential medical services. Yeah. Just because you decided that being trans is a figment of people's imagination doesn't mean it's a figment of their imagination. It just means you don't know what the hell you're talking about. Do I understand what it's like to feel like you're living in the wrong body? No. Does that mean I'm going to tell others that because I've never felt that way that it's not a thing? No, I'm not going to do that because I'm not an asshole. Well, I am, just not in this regard. The legislator did not ban the various treatments that are outlined, said Ken Falk, the ACLU of Indiana legal director. It only banned it for transgender persons. So that answers the question about those who are mentally, I guess the term now is mentally challenged. But yeah, they're hitting it a little too on the nose. You know, can you scream, we hate trans people and we just want them to go away any louder? I mean, if you're going to ban these treatments because you think they're so freaking dangerous, why is it just trans kids then? Why not ban it for those who are mentally challenged and who need puberty blockers because they literally would not be able to handle puberty? Why not ban it for whomever else, for whatever reason, needs these treatments? You're basically saying, I want trans people to go away because they're weird and I don't understand them and they're scary. What the hell? Under the Indiana law that takes effect July 1st, doctors who offer gender-affirming care to minors would be disciplined by a licensing board. And under the Idaho law set to go into effect next January, providing hormones, puberty blockers, or other gender-affirming care to people under age 18 would be a felony crime. Yeah, this isn't going to get children and their parents to flee the states and go somewhere where they're not surrounded by assholes. Yeah, that's not going to happen at all. For those who can't afford it, well, then they're really screwed, aren't they? In signing this bill, I recognize our society plays a role in protecting minors from surgeries or treatments that can irreversibly damage their healthy bodies. And who are you to decide that that's actually what's happening? You don't know. And who cares if it's a healthy body? The fact remains that they have made the decision that they don't like something about their bodies. And let me just explain something. Plastic surgeries are okay for children. You could get plastic surgery. How is that not altering a healthy body of a minor? But yet that's okay as long as it's not a trans person. How is this? This doesn't make any sense. None whatsoever. However, as policymakers, we should take great caution whenever we consider allowing the government to interfere with loving parents in their decision about what's best for their children. Yes, exactly. So why the hell are you voting for this ban? This makes no sense. He just said something reasonable. Parents should be allowed to do what they think is best for their children. Now, if the parents did something horrible, like a kid needs to transition because they realize they're trans, and the parents tell them no and torture them and say, threaten them with kicking them out of the house or whatever, doing something to drive them to suicide, yeah, we would, then the state would have a case to take them away. But they're acknowledging that these are loving parents, that these are not parents who are trying to harm their child, that they're doing what they need to do to keep their child mentally sound. And yet, that completely contradicts what you're doing. Make it make sense. Supporters of the legislation have contended that the ban is irreversible or carries side effects. They argue that only an adult and not a minor's parent can consent to the treatments. Again. Now, about it being irreversible or carrying side effects. So does chemo. Kids get chemo. Are you saying that they can't get chemo because there's a side effect? It's a chemical. Chemicals carry side effects. That's just the way life works. And again, it is not up to you to make this decision. It is up to the child, it is up to the parent, and it's up to the medical provider. It's not like these kids just woke up one day and decided that they needed these treatments. And parents are like, okay, sure. And nobody questioned the kid. There has been a lot of thought put into this. And for some kids, it was since an early age that they were like, yeah, no, don't want that. And they decided that they're trans. They realize that they're trans. And guess what? If you say that kids are too young to know that, let me ask you this. When did you realize that you were the gender that you are? Oh, that's right. You never questioned it because you're cis. So, if you can know that you're a gender, why can't these kids? Ugh. But opponents say such care is vital and often life-saving for trans kids, yes. And medical providers say most of the procedures are reversible and safe. Thank you. Transgender medical treatments for children and teens have also been available in the U.S. for more than a decade and are endorsed by major medical associations. But of course, facts have never gotten in the way of these pearl clutchers who decide that they know best for every single freaking person that ever existed because they hold government power. I'm sorry, just because you're in the government doesn't mean you're freaking God. These kids know what they need. The parents, the doctors, they all understand what's going on because they see this kid. They see the child struggling. They understand what this child is going through. Well, they understand. They can see what the child is going through. Some government official who's never seen this child, and most likely, if they were to transition as children and not have to go through all these nasty surgeries because they didn't go through puberty, they would meet them on the street and never have a clue that they just passed a trans person. But they have this idea in their head what it means to be trans, and nothing, no facts whatsoever is going to change their mind. When I started hormone therapy, it made me feel so much better about myself, said Jessica Weiner, 16, at an Indiana House Public Health Committee hearing last month. At least 13 states have laws banning gender-affirming care for minors. Alabama, Arkansas, Arizona, Georgia, Indiana, Idaho, Iowa, Kentucky, Mississippi, Tennessee, Utah, South Dakota, and West Virginia. Federal judges have blocked enforcement of Alabama and Arkansas's laws. And the Supreme Court, I think, blocked a West Virginia law as well. The GOP-led Kansas legislature on Wednesday also overrode Democratic Governor Laura Kelly's veto of a bill to ban transgender athletes from girls and women's sports from kindergarten through college. Okay, now I can understand doing that post-puberty because that's when the changes happen. I mean, when I was a kid, boys and girls in elementary school, boys and girls competed together because pre-puberty, there is really no difference between boys and girls when it comes to athletics. It's after puberty that it's puberty and after that the magic happens. So I don't understand this banning trans athletes. All the kids compete together. Okay. 19 other states have imposed restrictions on transgender athletes, most recently in Wyoming. The Arkansas Senate had also sent a bill Wednesday to Republican Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders that would require parental approval for Arkansas teachers to address transgender students using their preferred name and pronouns. It also would prohibit schools from requiring teachers to use the pronouns or a name a student uses. Okay, now, we had, at the beginning of this article, talked about loving parents who are understanding of a child's need to transition and doing what is necessary to help the child transition so they're happy, healthy, and living the life they were meant to live. Okay, great. Now, there's the opposite side. This law is basically putting children in danger. Not because of any gender-affirming care or whatever. This is because children generally feel safe at schools when they don't necessarily feel safe at home because their parents are homophobic, transphobic, whatever phobic. So sometimes the only time they can feel like themselves is when they're in school. And a part of that is having the teachers call them by the name they want, call them by the pronouns. I mean, That just makes sense. In a perfect world, parents would not judge their child. They would realize, oh, my child is trans. Let me get them the help they need. And that would be great. But considering that these bills exist to ban gender-affirming care, obviously that is not the case. So if you are a child of one of these adults who agrees that puberty blockers are bad, gender-affirming care is bad, why would your child come up to you and say, oh, I prefer this name, and my preferred pronouns are this? What do you think is going to happen there? Do you really think that the parents are not going to lose their shit and say, no, that you're wrong because you're either too young or whatever, or even worse, trans people don't exist, it's all in your head, we need to, do, conversion therapy or whatever. How exactly is this supposed to make a child's life safer and healthier? It doesn't. None of this does. All right. In some states where Democrats control the legislature, lawmakers are enshrining access to gender-affirming health care. Democratic New Mexico Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham signed a bill Wednesday that protects providers of gender-affirming health care against potential civil and criminal prosecution. Yes. All right. Dr. Molly McLean, who provides gender-affirming health care to patients of all ages, said the new legislation sends a message to people exploring their identity in ways that may not conform to gender norms. Exactly. And to be honest, and I've mentioned this in my unpopular opinion about non-binary people, I wonder, now obviously this is not including those who have gender dysphoria, because that's a totally different animal, but I wonder how much of the problems that trans people experience in society is because of gender norms. Like, when so many Republicans lost their collective shit at the thought of a man wearing a dress. And I wonder how many of these people actually listened to Twisted Sister in the 80s, because good God. How can you listen to glam rock and turn out this way? But anyway. I wonder how many, again, this doesn't include gender dysphoria, because that's something totally different. But I wonder how many people would feel the need to transition, again, outside of gender dysphoria, that they would feel the need to, claim to be non-binary or whatever, if they were just allowed to dress the way they want. And that's true. I mean, once upon a time, women couldn't wear pants. It was considered manly. Only men wore pants. Now it's not even thought of as odd for women to wear pants. But yet people lose their shit when men want to wear skirts. What the hell do you do when you go to Scotland or see a Scot in traditional dress. What do you think tartans are? Oh my God. Anyway. It says you are seen, you are safe, you are precious, and your access to health care will be protected here, said McLean, who teaches medicine at the University of New Mexico. I think that sends a huge message to trainees in the medical field. And that is very, very true. I mean, but the bottom line is, if you want to continue hating on trans people, fine. It'll just show what a colossal dick you are, but alright, fine. You want to be a dick, fine. But medical issues are not for you to legislate. We have doctors for a reason. They are experts. Let them do their job. And if their job says that this child needs to start puberty blockers or whatever else that goes into actual gender affirming care that's reversible. I'm only aware of puberty blockers, obviously, but if there's other things that are reversible, then fine. But it's not for anybody to decide but the person in that situation. The person in the situation, their doctor, and hopefully a parent. But it's not for some legislature in a different part of the state deciding that I don't understand trans people. That's a scary notion. So I'm going to just tell people that they can't do it because I don't understand it. Because that's what this is. It's a me problem. It's the people who don't understand trans people, who are scared of trans people, who are doing this. Because if you felt comfortable, I mean, I don't understand trans people. I don't understand how they can feel the way they feel. But guess what? That doesn't negate the fact that they feel it. And I'm not going around telling people that they have to feel like I do, because that's stupid. 100% stupid. So, anyway, I think I've covered that topic. So, I will see you guys probably tomorrow, I think. So, with that, see you next time.